As I settled in to watch episode 3 of The Dinner Table Detective, titled, "Here's a Message from the Dead File 2, I couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and skepticism. The series, with its blend of Josie mystery and sharp comedy, has been a roller coaster so far, and I was eager to see how it would handle the continuation of the Kinyu Kodama murder case while introducing new layers to its quirky cast. This episode, which aired on April 18, 2025, on Fuji TV's Noidamina block, had a lot to live up to after the chaotic energy of episode 2. What I found was a fascinating, if uneven, chapter that deepened the show's strengths but also exposed some of its lingering flaws. Let's break it down through several thematic lenses to unpack why this episode kept me glued to my seat, even as I occasionally raised an eyebrow that I think the pacing of episode 3 is both its greatest asset and its most frustrating flaw. The episode juggles two cases: the resolution of the Mizuho attack from episode 2 and the ongoing investigation into Kinyu Kodama's murder. I really appreciate how the show wastes no time diving back into the Mizuho case, wrapping it up with Kageyama's theatrical reveal of Hinako as the culprit, driven by her unrequited love for Mai. The use of Alexandrite jewelry as a clue, changing color under different lighting, was clever, and I found myself nodding in approval at the fair play mystery setup. It's the kind of detail that rewards attentive viewers, and I love how it ties back to the visual motifs of episode 1, like the red dresses and green necklaces. However, I personally don't understand why the show felt the need to cram the start of a new case into the same episode. The transition to Kinyu Kodama's murder, where a realtor is killed with a trophy and leaves an erased dying message, felt abrupt. I'm against rushing into a new mystery when the emotional weight of the Mizuho resolution was still sinking in. The pacing felt like a sprint, and I didn't like how it cut off the Kodama case mid-investigation, leaving me hanging without a satisfying hook. I also anticipate that this double case structure might alienate viewers who prefer a single, cohesive arc per episode. Still, I can't deny that the cliffhanger, Reiko probing the motives of Kinyu's children, has me itching for episode 4, even if I'm a bit annoyed by the rushed execution. If there's one thing the Dinner Table Detective nails, it's the interplay between Reiko, Kazumitsuri, and Kageyama. I really appreciate how episode 3 leans into their dynamic, especially Kageyama's biting wit. His line, "Are your eyes merely decorative, my lady?" never fails to make me chuckle, and Yuki Kaji's delivery is razor-sharp. I think Kageyama's role as the caustic genius who solves cases while insulting Reiko is the show's secret weapon. Yet, I also anticipate that his constant belittling might wear thin for some viewers. I'm torn here. I love his sass, but I don't think it's sustainable unless Reiko gets more moments to shine on her own. Speaking of Reiko, Kana Hanazawa's performance is a delight. I think her portrayal captures Reiko's duality as a wealthy heiress and a determined detective perfectly. In episode 3, I was thrilled to see her take a more active role in the Kodama investigation, questioning suspects with a quiet confidence that contrasts her earlier clumsiness. That said, I didn't like how the script still leans heavily on her incompetence to justify Kageyama's involvement. I'm against this narrative crutch. It undermines Reiko's potential as a competent detective, and I hope future episodes let her solve a case without her butler's help. Kazumitsuri, voiced by Mamoru Miyano, remains a glorious train wreck. I love how he's a walking parody of self-important detectives, braying about his wealth and making absurd deductions. His cluelessness in episode 3, especially when he misinterprets a suspect's motive, had me laughing out loud. But I personally don't understand why the show doesn't give him more depth. I think a hint of vulnerability or competence could make him more than just comic relief. Still, I can't help but enjoy Miyano's over-the-top performance. It's like he's having the time of his life. As a mystery nerd, I think the clue crafting in episode 3 is where the show both shines and stumbles. The Mizuho case resolution was satisfying, with the Alexandrite clue tying up loose ends neatly. I really appreciate how the show respects the audience's intelligence, laying out visual and dialogue hints, like Hinako's lingering glances at Mai, that make the solution feel earned. However, I didn't like how the Kodama case introduced too many suspects. Kinyu's children, each with vague motives, without enough clues to chew on. I'm against mysteries that feel like they're withholding information just to stretch the arc. I also anticipate that the erase dying message will be a pivotal clue, but I was frustrated that the episode didn't give us more to work with. I think a good mystery should let viewers play along, and this one felt a bit too opaque by the end that I can't talk about episode 3 without gushing over Madhouse's animation. I think the studio's attention to detail elevates the show's atmosphere. The lighting in the Mizuho resolution scene, with Kageyama using Reiko's phone to mimic the Alexandrite effect, was visually stunning. I really appreciate how the character designs by Oriko Tachibana and Izumi Kawata pop with personality. Reiko's elegant dresses, Kazumitsuri's flashy suits, and Kageyama's sleek butler attire are a feast for the eyes. That said, I didn't like some of the stiff movements in crowd scenes which felt like budget-saving shortcuts. I'm against cutting corners in a show that otherwise looks so polished. I think episode 3 tries to dig into deeper themes, like Reiko's struggle to prove herself beyond her era status, but it doesn't quite stick the landing. I really appreciate the moments where Reiko reflects on her identity, especially when she's frustrated by Kazumitsuri's dismissal. Her determination to keep her wealth a secret is relatable, and I love how it grounds her character. However, I didn't like how the episode glosses over the emotional fallout of the Mizuho case. Hinako's confession about her love for Mai was heartbreaking, but the show moved on too quickly. I'm against rushing past these human moments. It makes the characters feel like plot devices rather than people. I also anticipate that exploring Kageyama's backstory could add more depth, as his harshness hints at a complex past as the credits rolled. I found myself both satisfied and wanting more. I think the Dinner Table Detective Episode 3 is a compelling mix of wit, style, and mystery, but its pacing and tonal issues keep it from greatness. I really appreciate the stellar voice cast and Madhouse's visual flair, which make every scene a treat. However, I didn't like the rushed narrative and underdeveloped clues, which left me frustrated at times. I'm against dismissing the show, though. It's too charming and clever to give up on. I also anticipate that the Kodama case will deliver a satisfying payoff if the writers play their cards right. For now, I'll keep watching, hooked by the promise of more Kageyama snark and Reiko's journey to become a detective in her own right. If you're a fan of mysteries with a side of humor, this episode is worth your time. Just don't expect perfection.